This episode is sponsored by the A to Z on Pricing workbook, a workbook that focuses on, well, the A to Z in pricing, including but not limited to CODB, alternatives to CODB, pricing effectively while having clients line up at your door, how to put together packages, and so much more. Go to www.nicolebruce, NICOLEBRUCE.co and click courses to purchase this workbook today.
Thank you for listening to the Mentor Project, where we discuss marketing, SEO, how to go full-time in your business, and so much more. Here's your host, Nicole Bruce.
Hey, today's episode features a topic we're all too familiar with: chronic illness. I'm excited to bring this topic to a front as it's something we don't really like to talk about, but we very much need to. This topic is held near and dear to my heart, as many people Justin and I know have been lost to invisible illnesses. Today, we're going to empower those who have an illness that is labeled and open up about how we can overcome this label and rise to the top. We'll talk about self-care and how to share your story to help you and everyone around you in a positive light. I have with me today Emilie Steinmann. Emilie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks, Nicole.
I am so excited to have you as such a crucial topic. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Emilie.
I'm basically here to really break some stigmas and clear up a lot of misunderstandings about what it's like to be a creative entrepreneur with a chronic or invisible illness or a disability. There's a lot of different terminology pieces here, but I use them interchangeably because some words like invisible illness might not fit with somebody who has a visible illness or disability, but interchangeably so. I think that a lot of the topics I like to talk about, they fit for a lot of people, even people that find themselves to be healthy. This conversation will be suitable for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and that's awesome because I know one of my best friends actually has an invisible illness, and it's something that she kind of has to deal with mentally and physically each day.
Mhm.
And there obviously are so many people that do have those invisible illnesses or even visible illnesses, and I feel like there's a social stigma that you know, if you have one of these illnesses, you're less than, someone that doesn't, which is so backwards and wrong. And I love that we're going to kind of highlight that today and talk about how just because if you do have one of these things, it's just a word. It doesn't actually inhibit you from doing anything or, being a boss.
Right. It's amazing to see how many people out there have some sort of limitation, um, and they're doing amazing things. They are breaking a lot of barriers that we normally would face in a typical corporate environment or a 9 to 5 type of a job. There's some amazing progress that people are making doing things on their own and in their own way. And here's what I think is really interesting is um, disability does not really equal inability. And I think that's something that maybe we misunderstand a little bit. When you have a chronic illness or a disability, things just have to be done a little bit differently. So, for example, I'm a kind of person I have sensitivities to light, sound, smells, and sometimes that just triggers migraines, for example. So, if I'm in an office setting, like a corporate type job, the fluorescent lighting really drives me crazy. I can hear that really high pitched buzzing noise. I can like the flickering of the lights. I can tell every little bit of that. And honestly, it drives me nuts and it can trigger a migraine. So working in a typical office setting really doesn't work for me, but the beauty of being my own boss is that when I do work from home, I can control my setting. I can control if I need to dim the lights, if I need to turn on a fan, if I need to play soft music, if I need to whatever I need to do, I'm in control of that. And because of that and understanding my specific needs, I can be a better productive person and I can serve my people a lot better because I know what I need. I'm so much more in tune with my body and I know exactly what I need to be the best person I can and serve my clients well. So I love the fact that um, working from home, I have that ability. I am so much more productive in that way then.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it sounds like you were in a corporate setting before. So was
Yes.
that like a big change for you?
It was honestly such a huge change, and I went from a position where I was in that corporate setting, and a lot of women can understand temperature differences for men and women is very different. So,
Mhm.
you may find that in an office setting, corporate job, a lot of the women have sweatshirts on, they're freezing cold, and the men are, like, really hot. Well, for me, that can change in a matter of minutes. I can be really hot one minute and really cold the next, and it's no rhyme or reason. So when you're in that kind of a setting, it's crazy. But, I can always control that here. Now, granted, my husband also works from home, so I basically drive him nuts with the temperature changes, but, you know, I make the rules around here. Let's be honest. Here's something else that I think is really interesting. People like me who deal with random flare ups of pain, or like I mentioned before, migraines, or who knows what. We may have some tough days, but we're not the only ones. I know every single person out there has had a tough day, at least once in their life. I mean, it's pretty much
Mhm.
the norm, right?
Yeah.
But we all make adjustments to deal with it, right? We all cope with whatever situation is going on at hand, whether it be through a chronic illness or something like that, or like in my past, I've dealt with deaths in the family, and that takes some adjusting as well. Um, Here's what I think we all end up doing is we decide how to compensate for our limitations. And in my case, maybe that means I take on fewer clients at a time, or it means that I hire people to help me on my team. And I think that that has been such a huge improvement to my business and my productivity is that I have the most amazing business manager that I work with, and she keeps everything really organized, and it's I feel so grateful for the help that I have, and nothing ever falls short. I feel like I never have to be limited by my health because I know that I have a team of people backing up my business.
Yeah, I think that's honestly probably one of the most important things. And I would say even for those who don't identify, with having an illness or having a disability or anything like that, still having a team for everyone really. I mean, you need a team to kind of back you up sometimes. And like you said, everyone has tough days. It doesn't matter if you have an illness, if you don't have an illness. We just I mean, it's just part of being human. So, I think kind of hiring on that team and knowing that, those tough days are coming, but more importantly, that you can have support there and you can have a backup plan, that's something that will really help. And I think kind of part of hiring on that team is admitting that you need help. And I think that's kind of hard for some people to do. You don't want to think of it as, oh, I have this, so I need help. You don't want to think of it as something that is going to, like a disadvantage
Mhm.
because having a team is so awesome. And like I said, everyone, if you have an illness, if you don't have an illness, everyone needs help once in a while. Stress, projects piling up. It's not like
Mhm.
you're different because you need help.
Right, right.
Everyone needs help.
Exactly. Nobody can do this alone. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions of running a business. When you first start out, I felt like, oh, well, I don't have enough income yet to be able to justify hiring a team. And I understand it's really, really scary to take that leap. And
Mhm,
it took me a couple years of being in business before I decided that I could hire somebody to help me on a regular basis. But
mhm.
once I did, it almost became addicting. it became this feeling of, wow, look how much I could grow and look how much my income could grow when I actually had help. When I tried to do it on my own, I felt like I was just grasping at straws all the time. Honestly, I felt really alone, and I felt like I wasn't as committed to my mission and my vision. But once I had a team with me, and I really say with me, once I had a team, we were all in this together, and it felt a lot more real and solid, and it became a lot more obvious what we were all working toward. And the really cool thing is that when you bring on a team, you really make sure that you have all the right personalities and all of the right talents put in the right place, and things flow so smoothly. I
Mhm.
am not a systems person. I like to envision systems. I like to see the big picture. I'm, personality test wise, I'm a ENFP for Myers-Briggs, and I am a number 3 Enneagram. So when it comes to it, big vision, lots of people stuff, lots of big goals and ideas and ambitions. When it comes to the nitty-gritty details of things, I really fall short. And that's where having help has made a world of difference, honestly. So even, invisible illness or disabilities aside, knowing your personality type and knowing your strengths and weaknesses is such a huge benefit in trying to grow your business, and being able to hire the right person to complement, maybe where you're falling short or where you're just honestly not interested in the work. Like I one of my first hires was honestly somebody to help me with my bookkeeping. I do not like doing it. I can. I just do not like doing it. So that was a big, big step in the right direction for me.
Yeah, definitely. I cracked up as soon as you said things you don't wanna do because
Oh my gosh, right?
it starts out as, "Oh my gosh, I can't afford this, I don't wanna pay for this," and then it's that thing that sits on your to-do list for, like, 6 months, and you're like, "Ooh, I should
Mhm.
probably do that one day, but I don't really want
Right,
to."
right. Okay,
And
like, I'll be completely honest. I think I spent 3 years of being in business, and this sounds terrible to admit right now, and whew, this is hard. Um, 3 years in a row, I told myself every single March or so, I will not do this next year where I wait till last minute to get all my bookkeeping done before tax time. Every single year I did that. And every single year I had to do 11 months worth of bookkeeping all at once. That
Mhm.
was insane. That was definitely not recommended.
Nope.
And you know what I didn't have to do this year? I didn't have to do that because I made a plan to actually have somebody else help me. I put my ego aside and I said, this needs to happen. And once I did, it was like it was like heaven on earth. It was the most amazing thing in the world. Um, and I feel like regardless of your abilities and your health and all of that, it's so important to bring on a team and understand how to let go of control.
Yeah, yeah, and I know, one of the things we were talking about earlier too was you had, mentioned before we started recording that, you have appointments to go to, you have stuff to do,
Mhm.
if you have a disability or an illness, there's it's not just about work, you have a
Right.
life too, and you need to maintain that, you need to maintain self-care and have time for that too, so teams can be something super, super beneficial.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. So, I feel like there's so much benefit in that, and here's another really interesting thing that I've done a lot of thinking on, um, and this is kind of aside from the whole team building aspect, but, you know, how do you how do you as an entrepreneur, maybe with some sort of invisible illness, it could be physical, it could be mental, it could be any sort of those things. How do you share your experience and share your true self, um, honestly and openly? It's always up to you how much you would want to share on social media or in public or with your potential audience. But from what we all know, sharing who you are is going to make your ideal client or your ideal customer really like you. They'll know, like, and trust you when they actually get to know you. So, how do you deal with that when not everything is rainbows and sunshine all the time?
Mhm. Yeah, sharing your personality on Instagram, social media, wherever, even your website, is so important to nailing down that target audience, to speaking
Mhm.
to people and connecting with people. And I think it's really important to use that illness and use your voice to inspire people instead
Mhm.
of complaining and bringing people down and being negative about it, because there's so many other people who have these things going on, but they never tell anyone and they're struggling with it. Just saying, like, hey, I had a really tough day today, and being honest with people,
Mhm.
but also saying, you're not alone if you have something going on. I'm always here to talk. Whatever inspiration piece you have is so, so important.
That's totally my passion right there. I struggled for a long time where I didn't have a good balance. I didn't know exactly how to share what was going on with me. But for 13 years, I was searching for a diagnosis, and it was strange, and I couldn't figure out why doctors didn't believe what was going on, and I really struggled with that. I struggled with the fact that I had some family that I feel still don't believe everything that is going on with me, even though I do have more diagnoses. Speaking of which, I was diagnosed just recently with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a hypermobility disorder, and along with that comes a lot of extra conditions that could be related. So there's still a lot more digging to do and all of that, but um, you don't really know, how do you share all of this information? Do people think that I'm going to be less capable of doing my job? What are people going to think? And here's what it ultimately comes down to. I had reached out to a lot of friends and said, "Hey, how do you feel about this if I share? Is this weird? Is this a good thing?" Um and I got a lot of feedback, whole different types of feedback, and I took what I wanted and I left what I didn't. And ultimately it came down to sharing with enough good and enough bad. And that sounds really vague, but having a good balance where you don't feel like you're always too happy and fluffy because it feels really inauthentic,
Mhm.
or abbreviated where you're just not telling the whole truth. And too much sad really weighs people down. So it needs to be inspiring. It needs to show kind of that hero story that people love, where there's some trials and tribulations, but then there's a big triumph. People love that. And honestly, our life is full of that, even on a daily basis. So it's totally okay to share in that type of way and say, you know what, I had a really hard time with ABC, but I gained some great perspective. Or in light of my difficult time, I have gained some great friends and community through my struggles. And so you can always turn a positive light on something that has been tough. And I think that's one of my biggest testimonies is that through a lot of the experiences I've had with my health, with my challenges, I have made so many amazing friends who have gone through some very similar things. Maybe not the same, but similar. It's incredible to feel my heart is so filled with the stories of people that have gone through some really, really tough times health wise, but yet they're doing some amazing things. I am just inspired on a daily basis by my community.
Yeah, and honestly, it just comes down to being yourself. You don't have to pretend to be okay, and you don't have to overshare either. You wanna keep
Mhm.
your private life at least a little bit, and I
Right.
think one thing that you pointed out that was a really good point is when you're sharing things on social media, the word "but" for negative news works really well. So you can say you can say, I got diagnosed with this today, which is obviously usually kind of seen in a negative light, but
Right.
at least I know this diagnosis so that I can move forward and help myself. So
Exactly.
I think kind of using that the word but and starting with negative and ending with positive is a really good way to kind of phrase things.
Yeah, people always wanna end on a positive note, don't we all? I mean, I feel like that's the real key, is always, and this is just a general life goal too, is, you might have struggles, you might have things that you go through, but trying to find the good in it, trying to find a little bit of the light. There's a there's a concept in Japan about, broken pottery being mended with gold. So you take it's called kintsugi, which is a term of filling the cracks with gold so that there's even beauty in the broken. And I love that because I feel like there's always beauty in the broken.
Mhm.
There's always something beautiful to be seen in the tough times. And you know what? Those tough times don't seem so tough when you have a great perspective on things. So ultimately, that's where I feel like I have grown so much as a person, is that I now do see a lot of great perspective, a lot of the beauty there.
Yeah, definitely. And I know so much of what you do on a personal level in your business is just encouraging others to share what their life is really like, not to hide behind social media and have those perfect Instagram pictures where everything is great
Mhm.
when behind the scenes, everything isn't so great.
Exactly, exactly. The level of curation on our social media, um, I think while curation can be a fun artistic avenue, I love curating my Instagram feed to look cool, just because I love designing, right?
Mhm.
But I don't feel like we need to keep our stories curated.
Right.
I don't feel like we need to put a filter on everything we do in life. It just feels so inauthentic. And I think that if we tell our truth, even if a small portion of it, even if we feel really raw and vulnerable and we're scared that we're not enough and we're scared that it's going to put us in a position less than somebody else or whatever it may be, it's okay. Everyone's story really matters. And at the end of the day, your ideal client is going to love you for who you are. And you are going to book those clients. You are going to sell your products. You're going to do the best in your business because you embraced who you really are, not in spite of it.
The biggest and most unexpected lessons I think I've had just while growing up is that a lot of times when you sit down and you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one on this earth that this has happened to. Usually
Mhm.
there's hundreds of thousands of other people that actually have that same exact story or pretty darn similar. So
Yeah,
something to remember too is that you are never alone. There are always people that are going through the same exact thing as you are, and encouraging them and inspiring them to just tell their story, talk about it, and help others and keep it kind of going is definitely the way to go.
absolutely. Never alone. And this is why I decided to start my podcast and YouTube channel called Becoming Buoyant. This is one of those feelings that it's been in my heart for a long time. I knew that I wanted to empower people, especially creative entrepreneurs with invisible illnesses. I wanted to collect their stories. I wanted to hear from them. I love getting to know others, and I felt like I needed a platform to help other people feel less invisible. I needed to know that I was helping people feel heard and seen even though they felt really alone. And that's the point. I don't want anybody to feel alone. We're not alone.
No, never. I used to be a counselor actually for those in crisis. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the crisis text line, but it's actually
Mhm.
a text line where you text in instead of call, and just anything that's going on, you can just put on there, and a counselor will talk you through it. And so, actually, on the back of my car, which my husband kind of hates because he drives the car too, but I have "You are beautiful, you are loved." And
Oh, I love
it's
that.
huge, so everyone can see it. But no, I love the idea that that you're doing this for people, and the name of the podcast is absolutely perfect. So where can we listen to it, and when is it going to be released?
Sure. So Becoming Buoyant will be on, of course, iTunes, Stitcher, all of the places for podcasts, but I will be doing it as an interview style through video as well. I want to make sure it's super accessible to all people and all abilities. So I will also have it on YouTube as a video format with captions as well. So there's a lot of opportunities to tune in. It'll be the same essentially, content wise on every platform, but iTunes, Stitcher, and then also on YouTube. So that's where you'll be able to find me. And we should be launching here probably in the second week of September.
Perfect. And I know you also obviously have your own small business as well. So where can
Yeah.
we find you if we need you for marketing or any other services you offer?
Of course. So I am at buoyantmarketing.com and I offer all sorts of fun services. Right now, I am doing the coolest work doing some web page design, conversion copywriting, social media management, even graphic design and branding. It's pretty insane, all of the things that I offer with my team, but I am literally the happiest I've been running my business in the last how many years. This is the pinnacle of where I could be at right now.
Heck yeah, that's where we all want to be.
Heck yes.
All right, Emily, today's episode was awesome. And, we just talked about things that are so important to everyone. There are so many people that are struggling with physical illnesses we can't see, illnesses we can see, and it's really hard to come out and talk about them for a lot of people because they're seen in such a negative light, but we can actually use them for such positive things. So thank you for coming on and sharing what you do.
I'm just so grateful to be here and to have this opportunity to share and shed light on what it means to have an invisible illness as an entrepreneur.
Perfect. And for anyone listening, we will have all of her links on our website as well. So thank you once again, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Emily, again for coming on the show, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks so much, Nicole.
Thank you for listening to the Mentor Project with Nicole Bruce. Tune in next time for more on marketing, SEO, and going full time as a creative.